CalazCon is a show about war, obsession, colonialist occupation, and the many forms of violence those inflict. See the description for content warnings specific to this episode. Hello and welcome to the CalazCon Legislature for cycle number 4. This episode is sponsored by Gabe Gonzalez. My name is Austin Ramsey. I will be your host for this episode, and I will also be playing Fabrizio Catana, the Speaker of the House. Today, I'm joined by Anna.
Hi, my name's Anna. I use she, her pronouns. I'm going to be playing Dr. Clepsydra Kane, the Legislature for the Farm Upstate.
Thank you. I'm also joined by Brendan.
Hello, my name is Brendan McLeod. I use he, him pronouns. You can find me at Sulcata pretty much on any social media network you're so inclined, or listen to my other podcast, Oathsworn, wherever you get your podcasts. Today I'll be playing Red Philodendron, the representative for Zero Accountability.
Thank you. Also joining us is Gavin.
Hi, my name's Gavin, use he, him pronouns. I'm a freelance editor. You can find everything that I do at mixedsuccess.com. And I am playing Kagan Fischl.
Thank you. Also, note Gavin is also in Oathsworn, and it's a very good show.
Thank you.
Also joining us is PB.
What's up? I'm PB. My pronouns are they and them. And I will be playing Gishlak Nil, representative for the Blue Sky Endowment. If you want to find me elsewhere on the internet, you can find a lot of my stuff over on the Moonshot Podcast Network, where I have a podcast called Gahooligans talking about children's lit, and also doing some streaming over there. The last few months I've been doing visual novels with a couple friends, and that's been a real good time.
Nice. And last, but certainly not least, Snuggs.
Hi, I'm Snuggs. He, him pronouns. I am playing Zendre Mavis, the representative of the 86. You can't find me anywhere.
We appreciate your strange presence. As you may have noticed, listeners, this episode is coming out before the downtime sessions for Cycle 4. As you have also heard, presumably, in the Cycle 4 missions, something big is afoot. And that something big has big feet and has stepped on a bunch of stuff, and that is Goliath. So, let's get down to it. Oh, wait, nope. We need to go over drives and see whose drives may have been ticked. Anna, why don't we start with you? What's your drive?
Sure, my drive is to win the hearts of the people of Hestiel to the side of the DFS. I don't think my squad did anything about that, but I'd be happy to hear about other squads maybe having done something.
Well, I know the 86 didn't help with that.
Thanks, y'all. One day I'll complete my second drive clock.
But Pizza, they were working closely with Evangelions, I think?
Yeah. I don't know if... I guess suppose, yeah, if it's the people of Hestiel and not the con goers, then yeah, I think Zero Accountability might have a tick for you there.
All right.
I know that Terminal Company had a big old fight with CalazCon, nothing much with the Jovangelians. And I know that Blue Sky were in a likewise situation, though a more metaphorical battle than a literal one, from what I've heard.
Given how last legislature session went, I was really expecting to get more ticks from this cycle.
Well, I don't have the full Blue Sky report on my desk right now, so maybe we can just assume that they did their job for once.
From what it seems like, a lot of the squads took ceasefire to mean not messing with the Jovangelians rather than directly helping them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's why you're missing out.
Yeah.
And then the 86 actually fought with the Jovangelians, but that's not their fault, technically.
It's fine. I'm here to roll badly. Or I would be if I had dice.
Brendan, what's your drive?
My drive is, of course, to take control of Estiel through chaos and war.
I think the 86 gets you a tick, because as I said, they had a confrontation with the people that they presumably have a ceasefire with. Any other chaos going on here?
Does the farm upstate stuff count for that?
I don't think so, because they sort of just... My understanding is that they directly-ish attacked Goliath digitally.
Yeah.
So
There's a little bit of, like, uncertainty in that, like, it sounds like it was chaotic, but maybe it's not the right kind of chaos.
yeah, that might be more of a personal chaos rather than the systemic chaos that I think Red is looking for.
Certainly.
We'll get him next time.
It looks like Terminal Company's mission actually went pretty smoothly, so no chaos on our end.
Yep.
We'll get him next time.
Fishy, what's your drive?
So I've changed my drive, and maybe we can workshop this a little bit, but right now it's end the war.
Interesting.
Which one? The one here, or are you talking the one between like the DFS and the Jovangelian at large across star systems?
I think that one. End the war with Jovangel. That'll never happen, but, dream big, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get a tick on that.
Let me look up the Beam Saber rules really quick. I happen to have an expert here on the call with me. Let me just see.
Just
if I can...
because the rules say it can never happen doesn't mean I can't try.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
If you did want something more attainable, you could change your drive to something like form an alliance with the Jovangelians. Like upgrade the ceasefire to an alliance, that sort of thing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Austin, can I read this last paragraph just because I think it's good and it's pertinent?
Sure.
The one thing drives can't do is end the war. There are too many pressures from too many sources for one person or one squad to stop it. You could, however, shift the nature of the war by changing how or why it is fought.
Yep.
I'll just turn this from a bigger army war to a bigger economy war. That's what
That's
they do, right?
so much better.
Yeah.
So
Right.
for upgrading the ceasefire to an alliance with the Jovangelians, I think the 86 also helped with that, because though they did have a conflict with the Jovangelians, they were also working alongside them to the benefit of both. Proves that the DFS could potentially be trusted with an alliance.
I think the Zero Accountability mission to take down Logan suddenly alongside the Jovangels probably goes towards that as well.
That is true. So yeah, that's 2 ticks for Fishy.
Yeah, it looks like my squad fought the vermin a little bit, so no ticks from me.
Yeah. PB,
Yeah.
what is Gishlak's drive?
Let's see. It's something that's just as attainable as ending the war. Become an executive producer on a Calazar series. I'm perfectly situated to make progress towards that drive. I will take no notes.
I feel like even stretching, I don't think anyone.
Yeah, no, I don't
contributed.
think we're anywhere close to that right now. Sometimes, your work life and your personal aspirations are a little orthogonal to each other, and that's okay,
Woof.
No one's gonna accuse you of treason or anything over it.
Maybe sedition.
Maybe.
Depends on your definition, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What about Zendre? Was his drive advanced at all?
Well, his drive is to help old soldiers retire from the war. Don't know if we're anywhere near that. Maybe someone got forcefully retired in another squad somewhere.
I was gonna say we did forcefully retire someone. I don't know if that, as Austin put it earlier, helps the systemic idea of letting people retire.
Probably not. I had tossed around the idea of changing my drive, especially since, Zendre got that neat little vicious scar. He might change his priorities.
We didn't talk about it during the last legislature, but anyone who spent their own drive clocks for the ceasefire could have changed their drive if they wanted to. So anyone who hadn't considered that and wants to do so now is welcome to, if you have something in mind.
I don't think I've spent mine yet.
I don't believe I've ever had a drive clock to spend.
This is something I've been thinking about for myself, where I feel like there's a bit of tension for me between the things that my character wants and the things that my character wants as a legislator. And I feel like her drive as a legislator hasn't changed, but I feel like her aspirations have. And those aren't things that you can get by progressing, by getting ticks to your drive clock. In a way that feels like it would feel incorrect to change the drive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think I'm not going to, even though I have the opportunity to.
I was going to say more or less the same sort of thing, in particular because Red kind of drove this idea of like, hey, we should ally up with Jovengel, and yet my drive is to take control of Estiol through chaos and war. I think both things are still true, and I think that's interesting.
That is the drive clocks checked. It's time to begin the legislature. Fabrizio Catana takes their seat, bangs their gavel 3 times, and says, "Now begins this emergency session of the Hestial Subcommittee in regards to the appearance of the CalazCon machine known as Goliath. Would anyone like to make a speech?"
I've got a speech.
Ooh. The Speaker of the House recognizes Representative Fischel.
Before I do this, I've got a question. Do we have, Jovengelian ambassadors in the seats? Or are they just watching on TV or whatever?
There may be some in, the balconies as potential audience, the way that, city councils are often open to the public kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But they're definitely not sitting down with the representatives because they don't have a vote, right?
Okay. And I guess they probably shouldn't be talking to us either. They're just to observe.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, a diplomat is just a spy by another name, so...
Legislators, given the emergency nature of our situation and the unprecedented opportunity on our hands, I propose a new voting method to best capitalize on our newfound peace with Jovengel and guarantee our forces are put to their best use. Firstly, I propose we forego voting on the obvious. Our greater strategy will be attack. We must attack and destroy the Goliath. Instead, let us propose 5 missions and vote to assign squads to each of them. This is the best use of our time. I have ranked Goliath targets from most dangerous to least dangerous. I believe this to be an adequate order for our voting. Alternatively, we can assign missions to squads based on tier, then hold, then trust. Currently, that leaves us with the order shown here. Secondly, I propose that each of our squads pair up with a Jovengelian squad for their mission. This will introduce kinship and strengthen existing bonds among our forces and the forces of Jovengel. Surely, each of our squads has rapport with at least one Jovengelian squad. Let not this ceasefire go to waste. We have the potential here to end the war with Jovengel and win a lasting peace. This is our chance to understand them and for them to understand us, to build a strong cultural and economic exchange. Our fallen comrades look down at us, begging for an end to war. Let us show them that no more will die in vain, that no more will join them in the mud. And in memory of not just our fallen comrades, but those who have died in service of Jovangel and CalazCon, I call for a moment of silence.
So, what does it look like as each of you partakes in this moment of silence? Is it head bowed, eyes closed, or something else?
For Zendre, it's the stern looking forward, listening, hearing all the words. Her breather is on, of course, so you can't really see the lower half of the face, but there is a determined silence there.
Gishlak?
Since before representative officials started speaking, pretty much this entire time they've just been poring over all of the intel we have on Goliath, and they're still going over it. They have one ear up, they can clearly hear what official is saying, but just there's so much information to absorb in so little time. They're doing it quietly, they're respecting the moment of silence, but they're not stopping their work.
Red?
Red's facial reconstruction has been completed. His face looks more or less exactly like it did on day one, complete with the beard. And for once seems to be exercising some uncharacteristic silence and self-control. His hands are folded in front of him, and he's looking and listening respectively. And when a moment of silence is called for, he closes his eyes and dips his chin lower for a moment. But inside his head, he is just doing the sicko looking through the window meme, getting louder and louder and louder as Fishy continues to talk.
Dr. Kane?
The image I have in my mind is, those bulk, cheap sci-fi novels you get at the thrift store that look like they've been there for 20 years?
Oh yeah, Battletech.
Yeah, She's reading one of those. Yeah, just
wow.
Long sigh, opens book.
So she's reading through the moment of silence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quick point of order. Are there slides we're supposed to be seeing here? Because I'm just on
Did you not see the
starting
slides?
slide.
We see voting procedure proposal, and that's it.
Oh my god. We gotta have to do this all over again.
We can fix it in post.
I think we'll just have to leave it where it lays.
I had a whole thing.
Yeah, I saw you preparing it.
It was very
earlier.
moving.
Yeah, good speech. It'll come through well in audio.
I had a picture of the Jovangel flag and our flag, and there was a shaking hands picture. And then there was a picture of a hand in the mud.
Well, considering how well your speech landed, Dr. Kane aside, I think...
I mean, Nil.
I think I wouldn't risk the clip art.
Why didn't it...
Don't worry about it, Gavin. I know it's frustrating, but it's okay.
Okay.
Would you give us the priority targets, though?
Yeah, let me copy as image that slide and paste it. Actually, let me paste it inside the thing so audience can see it as well. So these are the targets that I've ranked by most dangerous to least dangerous, and this is the order of assignment based on tier, then hold, then trust with DFS.
Can I ask what flex slot is supposed to be?
I didn't think of a fifth mission because there were 4 things to target on the Goliath in our what we were given.
I see. So Blue Sky just gets a pass then.
No. Somebody else could get a pass.
No, it's much worse than that. Blue Sky doesn't get to choose at all.
Oh no.
Where they're going.
Yes.
Because they'll be assigned last. They'll be assigned by default.
Yes.
Gavin, could you read out what the targets are, please?
So I've ordered the targets: Resonance Gun, Command Center, AV Factory, Self-Destruct, and then a flex slot for whatever fifth thing we want to do.
All right, we'll leave that up for the audience. But during the moment of silence, for the 2 of you, I think, who have your eyes closed, you hear this, but the rest of you can see as this happens. There's a soft click as the door to the legislature is opened, and the quiet but not silent footsteps as people walk down the carpeted pathways between the seats. Zendre, these 3 people stop and stand over you. 2 of them are large, armed. They don't have their weapon in hand, but they're MPs of the DFS, the military police. The 3rd is a woman with a very severe appearance, crisp uniform, no hair out of place, that type of thing. She definitely has the badges to denote that she outranks your boss's boss. She says, Representative Mavis, it would be appreciated if you would come with us now.
Mavis, he looks up at her, and then around at the rest of the legislator, kind of like from face to face. When you first met this guy, he was jittery and nervous, uncertain, kind of like he didn't look like he knew what he was doing, but all that is gone from his eyes now. There's a cold certainty as he very carefully reaches towards his cane, which he's been using to walk. He's kind of like keeping his eyes on the two muscle, and his hand curls around the cane, and he pushes himself up to his feet with a little bit of effort. Very well.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, wait a minute.
We're in the middle of a session right now. You can't just...
Mavis holds his hand up. I'll be sure to be filled in on the later details, but this seems quite important. If you'll excuse us.
Thank you, Representative Mavis. She leads you and the two MPs out of the hall. We'll come back to Zendre in a bit. Dr. Kane, what's your reaction to this development?
Turns the page in her book.
Oh my god.
Red?
Kind of looking at Gishlak to see if maybe they didn't forget one while they were here, but...
Gishlak?
They were like halfway over to where that confrontation was happening before they saw like, okay, fine, you know what? They're going with it. They're saying it's okay. I guess I will let Mavis do what he wants. But he was like primed and ready to be like, you are interrupting important legislative procedures, blah, 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 blah. You know, this is unconstitutional. Ready to throw the full book at them.
Mm-hmm. What's Fishy's
now kind of has
reaction?
to deflate.
Fishy's mad. We're in the middle of a session, and it looks like an arrest that could have waited till the end of session so that we could all be in the room when we voted, or just like could have waited till the cameras were off. This is weird.
So after the speech, during the next recess, this woman visits each of you in your offices. Yes, even you, Red.
Dangerous.
She asks each of you questions about Representative Mavis. How well do you know him? Has he ever mentioned Bria Martell? Does he talk about Calazar Media in a favorable light? Has he ever expressed sympathy for the plight of Hestial residents? She never acknowledges any questions that you ask her. So what are each of your reactions to this gentle, relatively speaking, questioning that happens in your offices in a moment of privacy? Dr. Kane?
All these questions are met with like an open and honest, calm conversation. It's about as level as you could possibly be. And then after the conversation ends, the door closes and there's just a release, a like shuddered exhale, a beat. And then Dr. Kane walks over to her desk and starts making plans.
What do you feel was the kind of impression you gave of Zendre to this person?
Let me look at my beliefs with Zendre. Overall, Dr. Kane didn't really know Zendre that well, and as a result doesn't have a ton to say here. But what it comes down to is her feeling overall following this is that there's an opacity to Zendre, in that despite everything, after having been like in sessions after sessions after sessions with each other, they really don't know each other that well. There was a few times where they bounced off each other. Obviously, there was some other stuff going on, but that was never stuff that Dr. Kane was privy to. And it's just a glimpse into the wider world of the war in a way that I think strikes really home for Dr. Kane.
Red, how does this play out for you?
Honestly, Red's reaction is very similar to the Good Doctor's. Red's impression of Zendre, despite all that we've been through, is someone that is inexperienced and maybe a little too interested in a work of fiction, and I think expresses that honestly to this interrogator.
Question, is that work of fiction Calazar Media, or is it...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in particular, my third belief with Zendre is this person really worried about serial supervillains?
Fishy, what's your reaction to this line of questioning?
I think he answers honestly, but with hostility. Me, Gavin, hates cops in any form, but Fishy is kind of neoliberal in the system. So he trusts that if he answers honestly, that it will help Zendre. So something like, yeah, of course he shows sympathy for the citizens of Hestiel. I just made a speech about how I think we should do better by the citizens of Hestiel. Are you going to arrest me too? No, I don't know who Bria is. And Zendre is a strong partner who sometimes shoots himself in the foot. What am I supposed to do?
How does Gishlak take this questioning?
Gishlak treats this like an interview with a journalist. Specifically, saying pretty much only positive things about Representative Mavis, about how he brings the exact kind of young energy we need in our halls of decision-making, that he's worked so hard to represent his squad and the people of the DFS well and fair, that he has, yes, shown concern for civilian casualties as everyone should, but not an undue amount. When they ask about Calazar media, they just kind of laugh and say, you're asking me about that? You've seen the news, right? Did you just fall out of a coconut tree?
Her response
in episode 37?
Her response to that is definitely I have no interest in your views on Calazar, Representative Nil, but...
Haha. Sorry, this is a metatextual win if you said she wouldn't answer any questions.
Yeah.
Anyway, unless there's anything else you want to follow up there. Has been through questionings like this before, faced questioning like this a lot when they first defected.
Mm-hmm. So, before we move on to what happens with Zendre, just wanted to remind everyone that you all get to add a belief with Fishy from the speech that he just gave. Does this fill up the connection clock for anyone?
Me.
It does for me.
Oh boy.
Just my third.
You can go first, PB.
So my beliefs about Fishy right now are Fishy's defeatism could destroy us all. Fishy has grand plans as he's willing to be the face of them. And Fishy's star is going to rise far past my own. So my question for Fishy is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Especially politically. You've got political ambitions, it feels like. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but if you were to follow through on those, what's the dream scenario? What's the goal?
5 years? Probably white picket fence with Birdie on a nice planet where we don't have to think about shooting anybody ever again.
So not more power.
No. But to get there, that's the dream. To get there, power may be the answer.
5 years, it's the picket fence. The 4 in between. Well.
All right, I will think on that for a moment.
Dr. Kane, what's your question for Fishy?
My previous beliefs are Fishy has a good heart. He deserves to go home. Fishy's past is dark, but his hope has ambition in it. And I'm glad Fishy knows what problems are worth committing to. He's not such a rookie anymore. And, interesting. I don't know. I think my question is going to be along the lines of, this isn't phrased how I want it to be completely, so bear with me for a moment, but it's something to the effect of how much of your naivety is genuine? The overwhelming feeling that Dr. Kane had from your last speech is that at the end of the day, you really do feel like just a rookie again. And it's a little bit of disappointment in that to even think that we could end the war, we could have an alliance, to think that any of those are possible is saddening in a way. And I think that's the thing I'm trying to hit at in terms of what is the limit there? I don't really have a pithy way to hear that is the problem.
If there's one thing I learned from my Baba, my grandmother, it's when they give you an inch, you take a mile. So when they gave us a ceasefire, we take an alliance.
I suspect that does answer my question.
It is naivety, and that's not gone away or may never go away, but it's also Fishy genuinely thinks this is an opportunity, and there's no reason for us to hold ourselves back when someone else could do that for us.
Sure.
If that answers your question.
Yeah, well enough. I will write a belief presently.
Okay, let us know when it's cooked up. Zendre, you have been brought into an isolated, immaculate interview room for an interview. The woman across from you is the austere one that brought you in. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter, Representative Mavis.
Shall we get to the point?
Very well. Where were you the night that Goliath was revealed?
Zendre looks down at the table and then up at the woman. Does she have a name?
No.
The nameless woman. I believe I was reviewing some documents about one of the 86's sorties. It's my job to keep those all filed, well documented, and archived. And I was being thrice sure that everything was well in order.
Was that in your home? Your office?
This is like the same building that we do our legislation in, right?
No, she has taken you elsewhere.
Okay. I was at the very same building that we have repurposed for our legislation.
I see. Can anyone confirm that you were in your office at that time?
I'm sure the video feed would tell the same story that I've just told you. And with your clearance, you should have no trouble accessing it.
Did you have access to your legislator's messaging account at that time?
Zendre peers down at the table a moment, begins to cough a couple of times into his rebreather, pauses, then looks up at her again. I'm sure that you know about the recent attack, which led to my condition that you see right now. That attack, unfortunately, wiped many of the former records that I held, and so I have had to go through the painstaking process of rebuilding my digital archive piece by piece. Any former information I cannot guarantee is in complete one-to-one accuracy, but I have done the best I am able to restore most of it.
So you cannot confirm the integrity of your official messaging account. Do I understand correctly, Representative Mavis?
That was wiped as a security measure.
What's your relationship with Bria Martell?
Is that a name that would ring a bell for me?
How much do you know about the DFS's psionics program?
I think tinfoil hat conspiracy theory stuff that he might have heard down the grapevine, but for the sake of this, he's going to say, that name's unknown to me. Sorry.
What do you know about the Sunspot program?
Again, grapevine, tinfoil hat conspiracy theory stuff. I don't really pay much credence to unconfirmed rumors. Unless there's something you're not telling me, and he quirks an eyebrow.
She considers for a moment, and then she says, The night of Goliath's reveal, an email was sent, addressed by you, from your account, to Director Martell, asking her to meet you. Not long after, Director Martell was dead.
Interesting.
Thank you for your time, Representative Mavis. We may be in touch, so I recommend you don't make any travel plans for a little while.
Mavis reaches for his cane and hoists himself up, does a couple of shallow coughs, and he starts for the door. And as he's about to leave, he stops and he turns around, looks over his shoulder. Just out of curiosity, was there a 32 at the end of that address?
Out of character, is there a 32 at the end of your official legislator email account?
He's asking in case it was the old one or the new one, because he did state they had to set up a new one after the old one got wiped.
I see. Probably would have been the new one. Is that with or without the 32?
If she says there's no 32, then it was the new one.
There was no 32.
73 then.
She just stares at you.
Interesting. If he's not going to be inhibited further, he's going to take a call and exit.
You are allowed to return to the legislature. They even have a driver waiting for you, if you'd like.
He doesn't want to walk all the way, so...
Yeah. So as a note, due to your supporters being unsure of you after this recent incident, you have lost 1 vote this cycle.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
Who has a speech or some horse trading they'd like to do?
I have a horse to trade with Red.
Oh?
Yeah, I want to run an idea past ya.
Sure. Where do you find me?
I'll come to your office. I'll come to your definitely not bugged, definitely not creepy office.
It's fine. It's perfectly normal. You find a desk that has a very crude version of the city map made with like printer paper and note cards and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get a sense of the lay of the land as it's changed since Goliath's emergence.
Nil has both like classic like tablet and then also just like folders of printed out papers under their arm. As they come in, they sent you an internal message of like, hey, can I come talk to you in an hour in person?
Come on in. Take a seat.
Representative Philodendron. We never get enough time together.
I try to make myself available. What can I do for you?
Oh, I know. It's just, time is at a premium. Okay, so I've been reading through the intel and...
Do you want a drink?
Only if you take a sip from it first. I say, with like a wink.
Well, that's fair. And goes over to the windowsill where there's several half-finished takeout cups, takes a sip of some generic soda, and then hands it over.
Thank you. Sets it aside, untouched. Okay. Or puts it on your desk. Yeah. I've been going through the intel, and I've been going through the data, and I know that we have a lot of work to do to take down Goliath. You were the first person to warn us about this. You were entirely right. And you have good instincts sorry, I just have come to a problem, which is I have an idea, but my own reputation, no one would take it seriously from me.
Well, that's, sounds very difficult to sort of contend with. Why don't you tell me your idea and I'll see if I can't help you workshop it a bit.
Yes. So, Goliath is not just a piece of military power. It is also a massive propaganda tool. We can agree on that, right?
I can literally broadcast, is my understanding.
Yeah, I know. And we've got Exodin, CalazCon, civilians aboard it, as well as, like, military personnel. I know that line has become quite fuzzy, but there are certainly plenty of people aboard there who think that this is all just fun and games. And they've been, at least from our intel, there are certain safety assurances for a good portion of that population. We've managed to learn about this self-destruct, but that self-destruct designed in a way where no one would be seriously injured. All part of the spectacle.
Of course. Famously accessibility-friendly are self-destruct options.
Yes, of course. Nothing is perfect. I'm sure that our friends in CalazCon certainly don't expect it to be 100%, but what if these safety systems had some catastrophic failures? What if the attendees aboard were not as safe as they thought?
Sure.
And what if the only saving grace from this horrible carnage is some brave soldiers and some brave AV pilots of the DFS swooping in to rescue the innocent civilians caught in the crossfire?
Tricky, that.
Yes, very tricky. But even if the rescue operations weren't entirely successful, certainly it would damage the media power of Goliath if it kills a lot of its own civilians as well as the enemy, meaning us.
Grabs the soda, takes a big long sip of it as he sits down across the table. I can understand why you'd come to me with an idea like this. I surely can. There's a lot of moving pieces, but there's a lot to say for how it might pay off in the end, proven Calazar to be as dangerous as we have always said that it is, as foolish as it is to those that simply see it as a media empire. And we...
winces a little bit.
As the miraculous saviors of the people of Estiol.
Yes.
Do I have it relatively clear, in which case we engineer some sort of accidental self-destruct sequence and then race in to save the precious few that we can manage to save from this gargantuan walking bomb?
I know that we have other priorities too, but I can't help but notice that if we do follow officials' proposal, which I have many issues with, but we do not have the time and I do not have the political sway right now to do much about, we do have that flex slot.
Yeah, indeed we do. What exactly are you asking me for, Representative?
Well, I was coming to you before we had this alternate voting system proposed, which, if that goes through, then we'll have to figure out this. But essentially, I wanted to propose this mission, but I can't. It would be against everything that I publicly stand for, everything I say, to suggest threatening civilians. Coming from your mouth, it might sound a little bit more plausible. And if I were to grudgingly vote along, not because I agree, but because I know it will win anyway, And in return, of course, I would make a proposal or vote in whatever manner you would wish for my one vote or my proposal. Do you have a desired target for pizza? Something safer or something that would utilize them best?
That you would put your one vote towards.
And that I would advocate for.
Advocating for, despite your position.
You make your point. If you want to pass this up, that is fine. I guess here is my dilemma. I cannot propose this sabotage and rescue operation. It's simply just not possible for me to do that. If you think it's a good idea, if you want to support it, I would really appreciate it, and I'm happy to support you in return in whatever manner you see as necessary. But I understand if you don't want to deal with me. I completely understand that.
Just sort of legs crossed, leaning back in his seat, looking
I just
over
want
the desk to save face.
I just need I just understand.
So much so that you would sit there and make it clear that you hold me in such esteem to suggest that murdering any number of civilians sounds like an idea that could come out of my mouth.
I believe that you are the person here who perhaps most understands that we have to do what must be done to win this war.
Oh, is that so?
And to make it so that when the histories are written 5 years, 10 years, 30 years later, they're written in a way so that this war looks as just as its motives are, even if the means there might have to go a little bit darker. Isn't that the entire point of pizza? Zero accountability? Realizes they've raised their voice. Stop. Pick up the soda. Take a sip.
Listen, I'm not going to make your proposal for you. I'm not going to trade my powers of persuasion for one vote for some particular goal. What I am going to tell you is that, yes, we have a flex slot. And yes, your idea has some merit. I think perhaps you should take this back, pointing at the sheaf of papers, and really think about what it is that you stand for. If what you have here is a good idea that would put us in good standing, and yet the things that you have done or said in the past somehow hold you hostage and prevent you from saying what you just said to me right here in this room.
I guess I don't know what I expected. There's a good, 20-second pause as they try to think of something snappier than that to say, and then they settle with, I don't know what I expected, because they can't come up with a better clapback, because they got fucking owned.
So it sounds like there wasn't much in the way of horses being traded there.
I tried.
There was a horse put on offer. I examined its teeth and sent it right back.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a gift horse so much as a, will you do me a favor horse? Will you brush my horse's teeth for me?
Brush your own horse's teeth.
I gotta say, I love the image of them both drinking from the same can of pop, indirectly passing it back and forth. It's so fucking funny to me.
Oh yeah, no, I was imagining it was a,
big styrofoam cup.
Yeah. With a straw. But there was a loud slurp from when they took a sip. And they did leave that on the desk. And I imagine Red is in enough of a gremlin mode to continue to drink it afterward.
So what Red didn't say is actually, this is a series of cups that are all marinating on the windowsill, and he's mixing them together.
So gross.
Okay, I have to know now. What did it taste like?
Bad.
This is the kind of drink that would give you Legionnaire's disease. So, who has a speech or some horse trading to do?
I have a speech.
All right, Zendre making his return. The Speaker of the House recognizes Representative Mavis.
Mavis takes the stand, cane in hand, is about to speak, has to pause for a couple of shallow coughs, regains his bearings, and he says, I will make this brief. What we're looking at is a weapon of destruction on a scale that is yet to be paralleled here in Hestiel. It is an omen for all who look upon it, be it a proud member of the DFS, a loyal subject of the Empire, or even a humble citizen who calls Hestiel home. All eyes are now upon this crucible. In light of this, I would like to back Fishy's proposal, on the caveat that, and then there's another pause as Zendre looks down, and there's like a moment of hesitation in his posture, but then he curls his fingers around his cane tightly. The 86 have conveyed to me their earnest resolve. They feel that they are best equipped to take on the burden of the most dangerous parts of this operation. They have conveyed to me that they have no delusions that they might survive the coming struggle, but they do wish to give their all in spite of this. It is my hope that we can honor their resolve and their sacrifice, and make use of their skills, their assets, and their drive to see a better day, better tomorrow for Hestiel and the DFS. Thank you. And from that, Zendre leaves the stage.
Gishlak, what's your reaction to this speech from Zendre?
First thought is, what did those cops do to him? Second thought is, glad I'm not on the 86.
Fishy, how do you react?
I'm pretty happy to get support. I'm a little worried for Zandre's well-being. Also, this isn't a one to, like, go across the line, that's who gets what. We either vote on who gets the resonance gun, then the command center, then Avi, or we vote what the 86 are doing, then what the terminal company is doing, then what Farm Upstate is doing. So it sounded from that speech a little bit was confused there. So I just added an or on the
onto your proposal.
Onto my proposal.
That helps, thank you.
I'm thrilled that I'm getting support and also worried about Zandre's whole deal.
Red, what do you think about this?
Kind of similar. I'm glad Fishy's proposal got some support. I'm deeply, deeply curious about what on earth they think Zendre has done. And mostly I'm just concerned whether or not Zendre is about to do something very foolish. Perhaps because he thinks he has nothing to lose.
Dr. Kane?
This completes my connection clock.
Mine also gets completed.
Mine also does, so we'll get there.
Oh, are we going to see some dirt?
I guess so. I was going to describe my reaction here as another turning of the page in her book, combined with a little bit of consternation, which you can see on her face, in that she doesn't have as complete control over her facial expression as she likes to think she does sometimes. And at this point, she can't tell if she's happy or she doesn't know whether to feel glad that Zendre is able to suggest and step forward the 86 to take this role, or envious or guilty that she can't do the same for the Farm State. It's a really bad book, I want to be clear as well.
Before we get to the questions that three of you are going to be asking, Fishy, what's your new belief with Zendre?
My previous belief is Zendre is proving to be a strong partner, and my new belief is I hope Zendre is okay. I need to meet with him more.
Okay. We also got some new beliefs from Gishlak and Dr. Kane regarding Fishy after the speech, as well as Gishlak having one for Red. So Gishlak, what are your two new beliefs?
My new belief with Red is that Red refuses to accept political realities when they matter the most. And my new belief after asking a question about Fishy, finishing that clock, is Fishy's reluctance is understandable, but he remains a valuable asset to the DFS, with the implication that we should try to keep him in the levers of power as much as we can. And now for Representative Mavis, I have a question.
Just before we get to that,
though, go ahead.
Let's
do the other ones first.
Dr. Kane's new belief about Fishy.
I wrote down, Fishy's world is one of magic and fairy tales. At this rate, he's certain to be devoured by someone else with grander ambitions. I'll do my best not to cry at his funeral.
Oof.
God damn.
Do you want my new Fishy belief?
Yes, please.
Fishy's finally figured out how to lie successfully, especially to himself.
Nice.
And Zendre, do you have a new belief about Fishy?
He has a flexible mindset during times of crisis.
PB, you were ready to ask a question, so what's your question for Zendre?
Very simple question. I think we know the answer, but I just want to ask it. Zendre, do you expect to be alive within a year?
Right now, no.
Mm-hmm.
Bro.
To elaborate, before this, it seems like Zendre was between a rock and a hard place. Now he's between a rock and a hard place with Damocles' sword above his head.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's your answer.
Red, what's your question for Zendre?
I'm going to stick with it. My question, I think, is kind of redundant, but my question was related to my second belief with Zendre, which is Zendre is going to get himself killed. Hey, Zendre, is that true?
There might be a little bit of a Thanatos gambit going on.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Did you say a Thanatos gambit?
Yep.
What is a Thanatos gambit?
It's basically I might die, but my plans will succeed in spite or because of my death.
It's like a Parthian Xanatos. Well, okay, so it's based on a Xanatos gambit, which is Xanatos is Jonathan Frakes' character from Gargoyles.
See, I know what a Xanatos gambit is. I just didn't know what a Thanatos gambit is.
Right, a Thanatos gambit is you always win even if you wind up dying. It's like a more like spiteful version of a Xanatos gambit. It's all over TV tropes. Don't at me.
Okay.
It's Moriarty?
All right.
Dr. Kane, what's your question for Zendre?
Do you care about the lives of the 86?
In earnest, he actually very much does, which is why his hand gripped that cane the moment he paused in his speech. Was like, this was the one part in all of this that was actually genuinely hard for him.
I love the version of, like, Dr. Kane learning this, of just, like, going back to, like, the C-SPAN footage, basically, of this, and, like, seeing that and zooming in on that and being like, oh, okay.
Very good.
Even he has a tell.
Yeah.
Even if he's not entirely straightforward.
That makes that speech so much bleaker.
Right?
Yeah.
Y'all come up with new beliefs for Zendre.
I've got one. Chum in the water.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Ooh, mine is similar, but more wordy. Zendre has decided he's doomed. I should avoid entangling my fate with his.
Sometimes it be like that.
Gavin, did we read yours?
I can reread it. I hope Zendre is okay. I need to meet with him more. Somebody has to be a fucking life preserver in this fucking Senate.
I'm gonna miss all these weirdos.
I haven't written mine yet. I'm almost done, though.
Alright then. Dr. Kane, we haven't gotten much of you. Do you have a horse trading scene in mind?
Yes, I've been trying to figure out who to do it with is the problem. Though, I can give you my belief with Zendre right now if you want.
Sure.
There's a certain clarity to standing on the precipice. I think Zendre has learned the truth about this war.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I think it either needs to be with Red or with Fishy, and I'm not sure who. It just takes on a different tenor depending on who I do it with. Let's do Red.
Sure.
When do you, like, punch out? I don't know if there's, like, an effective equivalent here, but, like, when do you call it quits for the day, and what does that look like?
Oh, boy. Red's like, gets into the office at 11:30 and leaves at 2:30 kind of guy.
Ah, good.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Are those which of those is AM and which of those is PM?
I mean, they're always different from one another.
Carry on.
I'm imagining Red is walking out of the building towards the end of a day, or the end of his day, and Dr. Kane was already standing outside, and as you're walking by, you make eye contact, and she asks if you're free to walk for a moment.
Of course. How are you, Doctor?
Not well. Smile.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that.
No, not to worry.
Is there anything I can do?
I'm looking for advice.
Well, you must be desperate to come to me.
Well, given the circumstances, I don't really know who else to go to. I can't send my squad in against Goliath again.
Say more.
This won't be their first fight against this machine. I know that if they go in again, we're going to lose more people, and there's consternation from Dr. Kane that you're not used to seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
I owe them at least enough not to keep putting them in such grave danger, and I don't know what to do. Because as it stands, I think Fishy's proposal is going to succeed, is going to pass, and my squad is going to be sent against Goliath again in a very dangerous mission. Not to say that it isn't warranted, not to say that it isn't important, but they're going to go in, and being down a vital member of the team, I'm not sure they're going to make it out.
I understand.
You're going to tell me I should just do it anyway.
I pauses in front of a bench and sits down. I think we, both of us, but really maybe all of us except for Fischl, don't really belong here.
Yeah.
We're practically defined by our ill-suited natures to be a part of this committee.
Definitely speaks volumes about the DFS's funding here.
We serve at the privilege of the DFS.
A shallow laugh.
As soon as I am able, I plan on going back to doing anything else with my life. I know that the war will not stop, that more people will die, that my actions, one way or the other, will probably cause hurt to other people across the stars because of who I am and what I can do and the side that I find myself a part of. For now, I have a job to do, and the squad that I answer to has a job to do as well. They have an understanding. They know the city. They know what it is that they're facing. That's not to say that it's not going to be dangerous. It's going to be dangerous for everyone. But they say you can't stop the war, that it's too big, that it's too complicated, that no one person or squad can wrap themselves around it. But Goliath's big, but it's not that big. If we work together, I think we can stop the son of a bitch. If we're going to lose people along the way, I don't want that machine to keep going because we pulled our punch.
Do you honestly care about this machine? Do you care if it stomps around and bulldozes a city?
And Red looks really thoughtful, I think, and is staring out and takes a deep breath and says, I care about ensuring that if there is something out there that is so dangerous that no one has their hands on it, and looks at Dr. Kane in the eye and says, including the DFS. What I'm worried about isn't what CalazCon is going to do with this thing. What I'm worried about is if we don't blow the thing up and some other DFS legislators get their hands on it, imagine the hell they'll raise.
But that's always it, isn't it? A vague hell being raised for some other people that appear on a stat sheet in front of us on printouts that we didn't need. I understand the scope and the scale. Don't get me wrong. But when I look around me and I see the actual impact that I have and the power that I have to do anything, the only thing I can really affect is my squad and what danger they get into.
Let me ask you something.
If
you sent that squad orders saying, evacuate, get out of the city, you think they'd do it?
Without a doubt.
Gives a little shrug. Then maybe that's the order you should give. Maybe flex slot is extraction. After all, once we're done doing the job, we're going to need to get out of there. Maybe the 86 finds a way out, so to speak.
Sure.
Just sort of sits on the bench for a while.
I feel like I want to have an ask here that I ask for Red, but I'm not exactly sure materially what it is. It feels almost trite to try and bring up now, an exchange of votes.
I mean, yeah, I don't think we would. I think it's better to leave it unsaid in character. But if you were to propose giving an extraction mission to the 86 that benefited, then
I'm the farm state.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I was looking at the words 86 and said them out loud. If you gave a mission for the farm upstate to extract or to secure extraction for everyone, then Red would vote for it.
Sure. And maybe this information is communicated over the next while. But if there's something that you want me to vote for what Pizza is doing here, I can follow through.
Okay.
I don't know if you have a specific branch you want Zero Accountability to hit.
I do, although I need to ask Austin a question about it, because I was going over what my squad wants, and I was going over what we know about Goliath, and I think I've got my wires crossed. Does the name Dr. Coppice of CalazCon mean anything to you, Austin?
Yes, because I'm familiar with every squad's going-ons.
Of course. Red finds you in the room that you're podcasting in. So, do we know...
Oh my god.
We know that... Hi, I'm Red Philodendron. So we see that there's a command center. We, the legislators, know this. This has been shared with the legislators. We know that there's a command center. Zero Accountability specifically wants to go after CalazCon. Would I know enough to be able to say, oh, they're helping out with the piloting system and you should go to the command center? Or is it more likely to say, hey, I want Pizza to go after CalazCon and Dr. Coppice in particular and let them figure out where that is?
It would be better to have the specific objective of going after Dr. Coppice.
Okay. In which case, I think that's just more fuel for the fire for voting for the second version of this, where instead of picking Goliath targets, we're instead assuming we vote on this procedure, going down the list and saying 86 is doing this, terminal company is doing this, et cetera, et cetera.
But, I mean, I guess this was always my question, but are we even able to change the voting methods?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's kind of moot.
Oh, that's very funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but, that's not going to deter Fishy, I'm sure. And it will be up to Speaker of the House to point out that things will continue, the procedures will continue as normal. So it might, I think it would be fair for the representatives potentially to continue on with the idea that Fishy's proposal for a new form of voting will go through or will be used. Unless you think any of you are particularly knowledgeable enough about the procedure to know that it's a no-go, like it's just a non-starter.
I was only operating that way because Fabrizio didn't say right away, no, we're not going to do that. So I think it's safe for Red to have come to an incorrect conclusion the same way that Brendan did.
We got a little distracted. The legislation and character.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I can still work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Kane, tick your connection with Red.
Salute emoji.
Let us know when you have a new belief about him. Who has a speech or some more horse trading?
I'm thinking about horse trade, but I still owe Dr. Kane a vote from last session. Again, my bad.
It's all good. To be honest, completely forgot about that. It's been so long.
Yeah, I haven't. That was my snafu. But I want to make good on that promise, because what am I if I'm not good on my word? But also, I lost one vote because my credibility went down. I'm trying to think of what I can do to get more votes, maybe.
While you consider that, Red, we haven't had an activity from you yet. Do you have anything in mind?
I have some ideas for interactions, but they seem almost too small or too redundant. I was kind of hoping to wait and see if something better would come along.
Okay.
I'd be willing to trade horses with Zendre.
Alright, shoot.
Let's do another walk and talk, except we're both walking very slow because we were both badly injured a few weeks ago.
Fair.
We are very slowly going from, the wing where our offices are to, the actual legislative chambers.
Okay.
Gish, hurries a little bit to catch up with you and then slows down and, clearly is a little bit winded. Feels good to be walking the same pace. Representative Mavis.
Representative Nil.
No, we can be on first name basis, that's fine. I'm very glad to see you back in the building. I was a little bit worried that they had made you disappear. Whew.
Oh, these inquiries, they're usually just a bunch of air.
Yes. Well, if anyone's going away for having traitorous sentiments towards CalazCon, it would be me, right? Sorry, perhaps too soon to be making jokes. Is there anything you need? I can tell you're in a dark place. We're all in a dark place, but...
I don't suppose it's anything you're offering out of the goodwill of your heart. Usually, one hand lifts the other.
Yes, and together they lift us out of the muck.
So, how can I help you help me?
I am concerned about the safety of the civilians aboard Goliath. A lot of them are not combatants, and I'm not sure that some of them could leave even if they wanted to. And a lot more, I think, don't understand the dangers that they're facing. It's all just a big show to them.
I'm going to put my vicious scar into play,
Mm-hmm.
but they're willing to have front row seat to the death and destruction of others, homes, communities. I think they're just as complicit.
Mm-hmm. For the record, my scar is cold, so we have a nice little balance here. Yes, but... And to an extent, they are responsible for the situation they've put themselves in. To an extent. I will grant you that.
I would say they're even worse, because they're not willing to get their hands dirty and pull the trigger.
Well, I'm also a little bit worried that a lot of them are, to be quite honest, but...
Perhaps.
I feel like we could maybe focus some of our efforts. Maybe this would be in the 86's wheelhouse, but you said you wanted the most dangerous mission. This wouldn't be the most dangerous mission. But we need to be rescuing people from Goliath. That's what I think. And if there are less people aboard, then perhaps it will have more trouble running. And when it is eventually destroyed in our grand attack, there will be less casualties and more, can we call them refugees?
Are you proposing a sort of social sabotage? A propaganda operation?
Oh, I didn't even think about sabotage. I was just thinking about getting people off, but I suppose safety systems do have their faults.
I didn't mean sabotage in the literal sense. I mean, swaying hearts and minds. Something that, well...
I wouldn't call that sabotage. I would call that just a good PR move, honestly.
The 86 are determined. I made that very clear. They want to give their all.
And I am happy to support you in getting the 86 the mission that they need. Just what I would ask in return is that you offer similar support for a mission for one of our other, perhaps less directly militarily focused squads, or, directly combat-oriented squads, to focus on getting people out of there before the bloodshed really begins.
And your people are up to the task?
I think they would be up to the task. I think I would put Pizza to the task, but I doubt that I feel like Pizza has other things on their plate. They always do. The only other option I can think of is the farm upstate, but I know that they have faced some setbacks, so perhaps this would be a safer option for them, but appearances is what Blue Sky is here for.
Zendre looks down, kind of pauses in thought, eyes kind of swiveling. You can't really read the lower half of his face, as I said, or breather. There's a pause, deep breath, and then a shallow couple of coughs. I'll see what I can do.
And whatever your proposal is for the 86, I'm realizing the vote math doesn't work here at all. Actually, out of character. Well, it's good to know that we're both on the same page.
It's way funnier if you say that in character.
We'll see where their votes are standing, and we will coordinate to see if we can make sure that our squads get what they need.
Was there anything else? I'm sorry, but these days I don't really have much energy.
Do you need any extra support staff? Because I have plenty of hands in the office. We could go... I could lend you a person or two if you wanted.
I've gotten by on my own so far. I think I'm okay.
I stop and I say, Zendre, Gishlak thinks for a minute. You're a candle that burns very bright. It's okay to dim yourself a little bit. It means you'll burn longer.
Zandre starts walking again, and he kind of makes an offhand comment. I'm afraid my brightest days, well, those are at least in recent memory. And he continues to walk.
The end of that scene, I will say, is that when the next chapter of Smoke and Roses comes out, that exchange will be in there pretty much word for word. As Gishlak workshopping some dialogue.
You know what? I respect the grind.
Sometimes you gotta say something out loud, see how it lands.
I think that might break your security clearance.
Everyone knows it's me now.
Yes!
It's just a metaphor.
Oh, man. We arrested the wrong legislator.
I'm going to assassinate Gishlak Nil.
Just putting that on the docket and then having Gishlak vote on it anyways.
I gave you the perfect opportunity and you didn't take it.
I've got people for that.
Yeah, I know. I took a drink you offered. That should have been all it took.
Red philodendron's immune to radiation. It'll take at least 2 weeks.
So there is a horse trade there being considered, but there's not like a 100% soul guarantee,
Yeah.
at least on Zendre's part.
Thanks for listening to CalazCon. This episode was edited by me, Austin Ramsey. You can find my work at austin-ramsey.itch.io. Sound balancing for this episode was done by Christine Blight. You can reach her for voice acting at CVBlight@gmail.com. The show's music is by Devin Nelson. You can find them on all social media at Devin Decibel. If you'd like to support CalazCon, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/CalazCon. Please tell your friends about the show too. Remember, all glory to Calazar.